Single dad waiter saved a woman in the rain. Days later, his daughter recognized her on TV. The rain that night didn't fall gently, it attacked the city like grief with no warning, cold and relentless, soaking streets and souls alike. Most people hurried past with heads down and umbrellas tilted forward, desperate to escape the storm. But on a dimly lit sidewalk in Portland, Oregon, a single father in a stained apron noticed something others didn't. A young woman was sitting on the wet pavement, her body trembling, her eyes vacant, her strength gone. In that moment, one small act of kindness would quietly begin a chain of events that would change 3 lives forever. Before this story goes any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of doing the right thing when no one is watching, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them most. Jacob Miller had learned long ago that life doesn't care about your plans. At 36, he was already exhausted in ways that sleep could never fix. A single father since his wife passed away from a sudden illness 5 years earlier, Jacob worked double shifts as a waiter at a small family-owned diner near downtown. His hands were rough, his shoulders permanently tense, and his eyes carried the quiet weight of responsibility. Every tip mattered. Every hour mattered. His entire world revolved around one person, his 8-year-old daughter, Sophie. She was bright, curious, and far too perceptive for her age. She noticed things Jacob tried to hide, like the nights he skipped dinner so she could eat better, or the way he counted coins before buying groceries. That night, Jacob had just clocked out. His shirt clung to him from sweat and steam, and his apron still smelled faintly of coffee and fried onions. The rain started suddenly, heavy and merciless. He considered waiting it out under the diner's awning, but Sophie would be home soon from her neighbor's apartment, and being late meant worry. He pulled his jacket tighter and stepped into the storm. Halfway down the block, he saw her. She sat on the ground as if she had collapsed there, one heel missing, her hair plastered to her face by rain. She looked too young to be so defeated, too fragile to be left alone in a city that could be unforgiving even on sunny days. People passed her by, some glancing briefly before turning away. Jacob slowed. He told himself he was tired, that he had nothing to give, that he couldn't afford trouble. But his feet stopped anyway. Up close, he saw the bruises, not fresh enough to shock, but not old enough to be forgotten. Her hands shook as she tried to stand and failed. Her coat was thin, useless against the cold rain. Jacob took off his own jacket without thinking and draped it over her shoulders, then held his umbrella low, shielding her face from the downpour. He didn't ask questions. He didn't demand explanations. He simply helped her up and guided her toward the diner's awning, then inside where it was warm. He bought her tea with his last few dollars and let her sit in silence until the color slowly returned to her face. Her name, he learned later from a hospital bracelet he noticed, was Hannah Brooks. She had no phone, no bag, and no immediate answers. Only fear and exhaustion clung to her like the rain outside. Jacob called an ambulance, waited with her, and left only after he knew she would be safe. He never gave his full name. He never expected anything in return. He walked home soaked and shivering, his shoes squelching with every step, wondering if he had done enough. Days passed, then weeks. Life returned to its familiar rhythm of early mornings, school lunches, long shifts, and aching feet. Jacob didn't think much about the girl in the rain, except occasionally late at night when the world was quiet and memories crept in. He hoped she was okay. That was all. Sophie, meanwhile, was adjusting to life in her own small ways. She loved drawing pictures of places she wanted to visit one day, cities she had only seen in books or on TV. She talked endlessly about becoming an artist, or maybe a teacher, or maybe someone who helped people feel less sad. Jacob listened and smiled, even when his heart ached at how little he could give her beyond love and honesty. One evening, after dinner, Sophie sat cross-legged on the floor watching television while Jacob folded laundry nearby. A news program played quietly in the background, something about a young woman speaking out after surviving a traumatic incident. Jacob wasn't really paying attention, until Sophie froze. She leaned closer to the screen, her eyes wide, her small hand gripping the edge of the coffee table. On the TV was a woman sitting under bright studio lights, her hair neatly styled, her face calm but serious. She looked different from the broken figure in the rain, but something about her expression was unmistakable. Sophie pointed at the screen and said she recognized her. Jacob looked up, confused at first, then startled. His breath caught when he truly saw the woman on the screen. It was her. Older, stronger, but undeniably the same person he had helped on that stormy night. The reporter explained that Hannah Brooks was a survivor of abuse who had escaped a powerful figure and was now bravely telling her story, helping expose corruption and protect others. Sophie turned to her father with certainty only a child could possess and said that was the lady he helped in the rain. Jacob felt something shift inside him, something warm and overwhelming. He hadn't known who she was or what she would become. He had simply seen someone in need. And now, here she was, speaking to the nation, her voice steady, her presence powerful. Hannah spoke about the night she thought her life might end, about collapsing in the rain with nowhere to go and no one to trust. She spoke about a man who didn't ask questions, who gave her his jacket, his time, and his last few dollars, and how that simple kindness reminded her that the world wasn't entirely cruel. She said that moment gave her the strength to keep going. Jacob sat down heavily, his eyes burning. Sophie climbed into his lap, watching him with concern. He hugged her tightly, overwhelmed by emotions he couldn't explain. The next day, the diner buzzed with excitement. Customers talked about the interview, about courage and justice. Jacob kept his head down, refilling coffee cups and wiping counters, never mentioning that he was the man in the story. He didn't need recognition. He didn't want it. But life has a way of finding people when the time is right. A week later, a well-dressed woman walked into the diner, her presence immediately noticeable. She scanned the room until her eyes landed on Jacob. Their gazes met, and for a moment, time seemed to pause. She smiled, not the polite smile for cameras, but something genuine and deeply emotional. Hannah approached him quietly. She thanked him, not with grand gestures or dramatic speeches, but with tears in her eyes and gratitude in her voice. She told him that because of him, she lived. Because of him, she found the courage to speak up. Jacob didn't know what to say. He shrugged, embarrassed, insisting anyone would have done the same. Hannah shook her head gently, explaining that not everyone stops. Not everyone cares. Their lives crossed again in subtle ways after that. Hannah helped the diner gain attention, bringing in customers who wanted to support a place connected to kindness. Tips increased. Shifts became steadier. Jacob found himself breathing a little easier for the first time in years. Hannah also met Sophie. The connection between them was instant and sincere. Sophie saw Hannah not as a figure from TV, but as a real person who had been hurt and healed. Hannah saw Sophie as a reminder of why kindness mattered, of the future she wanted to help protect. Over time, Hannah quietly funded Sophie's art classes, never asking for credit. She helped Jacob find better opportunities, even assisting him in enrolling in night courses he had once dreamed of but never thought possible. She didn't do it out of obligation, but out of gratitude and belief. Jacob struggled with accepting help at first. Pride is hard to let go of when you've survived on nothing but grit. But he learned that accepting kindness was not weakness, it was trust. Months later, Jacob stood in a small art gallery watching Sophie's drawings displayed on the wall. Hannah stood beside him, smiling softly. The rain that once symbolized despair now felt distant, like a memory that had lost its power. Life wasn't perfect. There were still bills, still worries, still nights when sleep came slowly. But there was also hope, steady and real. There was the knowledge that one moment, one choice, could ripple outward in ways no one could predict. Just before this story ends, we have a special request for you. Please comment below and tell us what you believe is the most powerful small act of kindness someone can do. Your words might inspire someone else to act when it matters most. As the years passed, Jacob often thought about that night in the rain. He realized that he hadn't just saved Hannah. In many ways,